Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Doxy. I want to welcome all of you to this bi-weekly press briefing. Isn't this a nice setting to be in? Certainly beats G9 and some of those indoor places that we have to be in, especially during the summer. It really is an honor to be here at the D.C. War Memorial to talk about the D.C. Rally for Statehood, D.C. Rally for Statehood, and, of course, for self-determination. I think we have to work on our terminology because, boy, statehood and self-determination, we have to figure out something that just grabs people a little bit more quickly than that. But I think everybody here knows exactly what we mean. Of course, the rally will take place right here on Saturday morning. And also, this is a memorial, for those who don't know, that honors the 26,000 Washingtonians who served in World War I. This dome temple stands actually as the only memorial on the National Mall that is dedicated to local residents. Inscribed in the base, for those of you who haven't seen it, are the names of 499 Washingtonians who lost their lives in World War I. The memorial was dedicated in 1931 on Armistice Day, which of course now is known as Veterans Day, and it was done on the basis of money that was collected from people in the District of Columbia. It was restored and reopened on November 11, 2011, and it had been 30 years since any major work had been done on the memorial up to that point. It was done with stimulus funding, ARA, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009, $7.3 million used to restore the war memorial, including cleaning, improving lighting systems, correcting water drainage, and reviving the landscape that had been very much a part of this site up to now, and allows the memorial to be used as a bandstand as well. I don't know if any of you have been down here for such events, but it certainly is available for that purpose. Aside from its proximity to the location of the Lincoln Memorial, which will be the site of the gathering of the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, it's also symbolic that we hold the Rally for Statehood here because of the things that we will focus on, especially the hypocrisy that we continue to endure, district residents continue to endure, where we send our sons and our daughters, many of you heard this many times, and I don't think we can say it enough times, right, Mike? And that is, we send all our relatives, our friends, our sons, our daughters, our grandchildren off to fight wars in faraway places, and yet they come home and continue to be denied full democracy here in the District of Columbia. So we need all of our D.C. residents and supporters from around the country and around the world, and of course around the city, to come out on Saturday morning and join us for this rally. We will start right here at the D.C. War Memorial at 8 a.m. On Saturday morning for a pre-rally program that will include songs, that will include poetry, and will include a variety of messages of freedom on behalf of the people of the District of Columbia. The main rally program here will start at 9 a.m. And will feature a number of speakers, including Kim Perry, who is with DC Vote, the Executive Director of DC Vote, Rashad Robinson, who is Executive Director of colorofchange.org, which is a huge internet organization, has a huge following, and promotes a variety of social causes. Melanie Campbell, who is the president of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation and the Black Women's Roundtable, which mobilizes African Americans and women to get out to vote and engage in important movements. Our council chairman, Phil Mendelson, has indicated he will be here. And, of course, Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton will be here to continue to wage the fight that she has for so long on behalf of this issue. Angela Rye, who is an MSNBC contributor, as well as other network talk shows, will be joining us as the Mistress of Ceremonies. After the rally, which we expect to end around 9:45 a.m., the group assembled here will then march over to the Lincoln Memorial, which again, of course, was the site of the 1963 march, rally, and for me, anyway, the greatest speech ever delivered, and that was, I Have a Dream. Of course, the leaders of a number of national organizations who will be convening the march, that would be the National Action for Network, Reverend Sharpton, the National Urban League, Mark Morial, and many labor unions have stood with us in the past in favor of full democracy for the 632,000 people who now live in the District of Columbia. And I'll say it today, and I'll say it again and again and again. We now are a jurisdiction that has a larger population than 2 states. Our population is larger than the state of Vermont, and our population is larger than the state of Wyoming. So if it were based on sheer numbers, we would be a state, frankly, tomorrow. And by the way, for those who don't know, back in 1965, Dr. King convened a march that began in Shaw and went to Lafayette Park, and it was specifically focused on autonomy for the people of the District of Columbia. And for those of you who've seen the speech, you know that he spoke eloquently then on this issue. So we look forward to convening here. We look forward to conducting a rally that continues to energize our fight for full representation. I want to thank Senator Mike Brown for being here with us today. Mike, I want to thank you for your continued vigilance and diligence in waging this fight. I know there are lots of days when it feels like it's like Sisyphus pushing a rock up a hill, you know, and then watch it roll back down. But frankly, unless we're willing to continue to wage that fight, we will never be successful. We will never see the end that we hope for. And of course, it leads me once again to quote Frederick Douglass, who once said, "Power concedes nothing without a demand." It never did, and it never will. And unless we do that, of course, nothing will change here in the city. On the website, which is marchondc50.dc.gov, we already have, I think, right, Steve, we already have over 100 organizations that have signed up to participate. I don't know how many people are going to show up. I mean, how can I possibly predict that? But, you know, if 100 organizations have signed up, that is a powerful statement in and of itself. And that's the kind of momentum that we obviously need to build and sustain in order to be able to grab the attention of those who can make the difference on this issue. Again, we hope as many people show up, not just people who live in the District of Columbia, although that's got to be the core of this, people who live in the District of Columbia and we're willing to stand up for our own rights and fight for ourselves. We also, tomorrow in Freedom Plaza, and we invite all the media to come out, Freedom Plaza from 12 until 4. We're having a sign-making party, so you all can bring your paint, bring your pencils, bring your pens, and we'd love to have the media out there making signs. We can count on you all to be able to help make us, right, Matt? You'll do that. Yeah. What about you, Mr. Sherwood? Can we count on you to make a few signs on? You're here to help. You're always that kind of guy, and I appreciate it. In any event, before we open it up for questions about this, we have Kim Perry, who is with us today, and I want to ask her to come up. She is still relatively new in her tenure at DC Vote, but she has taken on with fervor this cause because that's why DC Vote exists. You know, and I don't want to say that that the name DC Vote is not broad enough, but it probably isn't, because it is about a DC vote, a vote in Congress, but it's also about us being able to make decisions on our own budget, being able to make decisions about our own laws, and frankly to be able to enjoy the same rights as anybody else in the United States of America. It is a travesty that we continue to face what we face, and you know, there's lots of people who are invested, unfortunately, in not seeing that change. So, Kim, you want to come on up and say a few words?
Good morning, everyone. This is the old school teacher in me. Good morning, everyone. That's a little bit better. Thank you so much. So thanks to Mayor Gray. We appreciate participation in this morning's press conference, especially participation in Saturday's event. You all know that DC Vote for years, since 1998, has been committed to seeing DC become the 51st state. We are an advocate for voting rights and full representation in the House of Representatives and the United States Senate. We've been fighting hard to do that, and we'll continue that fight over time. I also just want to give a quick shout out and thank you to Steve GLAUDE, who is working 24/7 to pull all of this together and to to be sure it is as inclusive as possible and that as many voices are heard as possible, and to really encourage DC residents to participate on Saturday. So a couple things that we wanted to mention. One is, you all know that the original theme of the march 50 years ago was jobs and freedom, but primarily the goal was civil rights and economic rights for African Americans and people of color. And while we've come a really long way, we still have so much work to do. And it is very ironic that hundreds of thousands, we hope, of people will descend upon our city, the District of Columbia, understanding or trying to figure out their role in fighting for civil and economic rights, for jobs, for freedom, for justice. But what many of them don't realize is that right here in the city in which they will be demanding those exact rights is still a huge injustice taking place. And that is that we all, as DC residents, don't have equal access to the United States Congress, and that's got to change. So I really encourage you all, as you're talking to people who are coming to the district, be sure they know that they're not just here for the national message, that they need to take our message along with them. And so as we all descend at this memorial on Saturday and get ourselves ready, that we're taking that full message to those who are here for the national march as well. A couple other things that I wanted to mention is that this movement is only as powerful as the people behind it. We can only be as loud and as bold and demand our rights as we allow for inclusivity of everyone. And that means the seasoned, and that also means for the young who are newly passionate to this issue. We have to let all of those voices in. You guys even know that 50 years ago, much of the march, the original march, was organized by young people. It was a perfect combination of the veterans and the young coming together to see this march take place, even 20 years before that, when A. Philip Randolph started planning the march, as you know. So young people have been a core part of every movement, and we need to make sure their voices are heard. Our message at DC Vote for this week, from now until the close of events next Wednesday, is for DC residents particularly to recommit themselves to this movement. Everyone feels outraged, everyone feels passionate about this issue, but we now want people to recommit, to sign up again, and to really join this movement in a meaningful way to have their voices heard. I think about Mary Ann Stein of the Mariah Fund, who is a strong fighter for democracy in this city and abroad. We're actually honoring her at our Champions of Democracy Gala in October, but through her philanthropy, she's found a way to have the broader messages heard beyond the walls of Washington, D.C. I think about Tim Hampton and Brooke Burke, under the age of 30, who are outraged about the injustice that exists in D.C., have taken it upon themselves to record videos in almost 100 neighborhoods across the city, to crowdsource funding, to create banners that hang in Columbia Heights, that will hang in Shaw and LaDroit Park, that remind D.C. residents that we are being treated unfairly and we need everybody's voice to take part in this. I think about Jeremiah Lowry, who was born and raised in D.C., went off to college and carried this message with him and educated hundreds of others to join this movement with us. And so it will take all of us to really recommit ourselves to this movement. And this march is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to remind our fellow D.C. residents that now is the time. So we encourage people to join dcvote.org, get more information, become a member, and find the next opportunity to elevate their voices and be heard. So we look forward to seeing you all on Saturday. We are sending out messages, organizing folks to come to the sign-making party. Those visual banners are important. You all know how visual and important they were 50 years ago. You remember seeing all the signs. So that banner-making party, I think, is important for the sense of camaraderie we need to have in preparation for Saturday. And we are trying to get out as many folks as we can to join us on Saturday morning right here. So we thank all of you. We thank Mayor Gray, Steve, whatever we can do still over the next week, we will do it. And we look forward to seeing you all on Saturday. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kim. You know, I would say that the message of the larger march is the message of this march also, because, as you properly pointed out, the message of freedom continues to ring out. And boy, isn't this a message of freedom here in the District of Columbia, because we are not free. You know, simply put, we are not free. When you can't make the decisions about your own money, when you can't make the decisions about your own laws, when you don't have a representative who can vote on the issues that affect your city, when we have a situation which occurred not all that long ago where there was a congressional move to take over this memorial, which was a D.C. memorial, and nationalize it, we are not free, ladies and gentlemen, and we need to remember that, and we need to continue to experience the outrage that people experience that have led to being able to free people in so many other situations. Before we take questions on this issue, I want to ask Senator Brown if he would like to come up and say a few words. He really works extremely hard on this issue. I'm proud to be able to work with him. It's a tough uphill fight, but the day will come when the corner will be turned and we will actually win this fight. But the only way we will accomplish that is, frankly, by continuing to wage the fight. And Senator Brown, I want to thank you for the work that you do every day in helping us continue to be able to surmount the hurdles, the obstacles that are associated with this. Senator Mike Brown.
Thank you, Mayor. That's really where I need to start, is to thank Mayor Gray, because we have a mayor that always speaks to this issue every time he gets the opportunity. Doesn't matter if he's talking to a local group or a national audience, and that's what we need to do. You know, Dr. King came here 5 decades ago and challenged America. He said he was here to cash a check, a promissory note that was drawn on the Bank of Justice and was guaranteed by the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. But yet, here we stand 50 years later on ground, sacred ground, that was consecrated by the sacrifice of the 499 people who were Washingtonians, whose names are on the wall behind me, who gave up their lives for our freedom, and we're still not free. And Kim Perry will tell you that DC Vote did a survey about 10 years ago that showed that 79% of the people in America do not know the situation we find ourselves in the District of Columbia. They think that we have exactly the same rights as every other American, because why wouldn't you? It's counterintuitive to think that the people that live in the citadel of democracy have no democracy. So I put it upon the media that's here today to take this issue and bring it to the people. We shouldn't be on the style page of the Washington Post. When we're on the news, this shouldn't be a local curiosity. These are our basic civil rights. The District of Columbia, 200,000 of us have stood up for this country during wartime. These are the rights that America was founded on. Walk anywhere around the mall. Go to the Lincoln Memorial and you will see conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all are equal. Go across the street and you will see we hold these truths to be self-evident that all are created equal. And ironically enough, walk right across the street and you will see injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And I believe that, and it's time to seize what Dr. King called the fierce urgency of now and change this. So let's all take a vow, especially in the press, to make this happen. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Senator Brown. We'll take questions on the rally. Mr. Sherwood.
Mr. Mayor, on that day, oh, geez. Are we ready now? Mr. Mayor, on that day, are you going to have any role in the formal program welcoming people on the stage at the Lincoln Memorial? Or?
I don't know. I think that program is still in formation. I actually don't know. Do you know?
Yes. We'll be providing welcoming remarks.
Okay. I'll be providing welcoming remarks.
We're having
and obviously I'll be welcoming people to the prospect of democracy.
Okay. You probably will get about a minute and a half, so that will be the thrust of your remarks.
It will be succinct. Ms. Brazil? Hold on a minute.
I'd like to ask a question of the organizers of the rally on Saturday. I'm concerned about the logistics. Number one, this is not the most easy place to find, and even if you do a map quest, it doesn't come up easily, and there is virtually no parking in the area. Given the average age of the people who will be attending, which is 60, probably 60 and above in terms of March, have the organizers of the event thought about putting a map on the flyer, as well as are they providing any shuttle service from the nearby metro stations to get people down here?
Let me ask Steve to come up. You know, I wish this were a cause that was steeped in convenience, but it is not. And frankly, those who are looking for convenience for this cause really, I think, are focused on the wrong thing. You know, we need to be down here in the midst of where decision-making is taking place. We're in the midst of where this rally convened with 250,000 people just, you know, not just, but 50 years ago. So there may be some who will find it less than easy to be able to get here, but you know what? That's the battle that we're waging, Mr. Brazil. I'm gonna ask Steve GLAUDE if he would come up and talk about how we are planning. I've actually been involved in some discussions around that issue, but at the end of the day, frankly, we've got to recognize that we've got to make whatever sacrifices are necessary to bring freedom to the District of Columbia. It's not a casual conversation by any stretch.
But, Mr. Mayor, my first question is not about the inconvenience. My question is, this flyer doesn't even have a map or the location of this memorial. So say that you decide on Friday you want to come. The only thing it says, it's across from the MLK Memorial. Many people have not been there. Have you thought about including an address or a map?
We're actually sending out a second flyer today. As you note from the first flyer, it does not have a list of lineup of speakers. We're sending out a second flyer that will have more detailed instructions about the location of the War Memorial as well as transportation arrangements. We actually meet with the Park Service today to find out whether we can have drop-off locations. The National Action Network will be shuttling people from Foggy Bottom to the Lincoln, and people may have to walk from the Lincoln down here. We have a number of seniors who have signed up, and we have our district agencies prepared to shuttle them actually right here to this location if we're allowed to do that, and we'll know that by 2 o'clock today. Well, the meeting is at 2 o'clock. We'll know by 2:30.
Well, Mr. GLAUDE, the purpose of this press conference was to use the media to get the word out. How are we supposed to get the word out if you don't know what the details is? People need to make a decision. Tomorrow's Thursday already.
The National Park Service would not negotiate our site plan until they completed the site plan for the National Action Network. They did not complete that site plan till late yesterday evening. Our meeting with them is at 2 o'clock today. We have sent the original flyer out to about 50,000 people. We will send this second flyer with more details to those same 50,000. We've used our district agencies, and we'll use you all as well to get more accurate information out when the time comes, which will be later today.
Yeah, I think this is kind of in the same. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is kind of on the same vein. With the logistics of this still kind of up in the air. I mean, I know the organizers of next Wednesday's event are saying there may be as many as 50,000 people coming in, possibly more. How many are you expecting to show up on Saturday with so many variables still waiting to be determined?
There is never a way to project. For example, when we did the D.C. Statehood Rally as part of the MLK Foundation the MLK Memorial dedication, we had hoped for 1,000 people. 3,000 people showed up. I can tell you that there is more energy and interest around this event than there was for the MLK Memorial dedication, at least among D.C. activists and residents. So it's just difficult to project. The logistical challenges, I'm certain, will impact the crowd, but the energy and the interest around this has been really phenomenal.
And do you have a backup plan? Do you have backup plans if certain elements of your site proposal are not approved by the Park Service?
Yes, but I haven't discussed them with the mayor, so I don't want to discuss them now.
I'm not. You know what? I can stand out here all day long. Possibility, every eventuality that could happen. I'm not going to get into that, okay? I'm going to make this happen. I have lived in the District of Columbia my entire life. I have suffered the indignity and degradation of second-class citizenship my entire life, and I'm not going to stand out here today or Saturday and worry about whether that tree limb is facing in the right direction, whether I am properly distanced across from Dr. King's memorial or not. I am going to make this happen, and people will make this happen because it is time for this kind of indignity to stop in the District of Columbia. And you all are here because you have pathways to people. How did they get it done in 1963? Did they send it out over the internet? How did they get it out? They got the word. 250,000 people showed up here because they were sick and tired of the disenfranchisement that existed in this country. They were sick and tired of turning their television on and seeing people being hosed down, seeing dogs being sicked on people. Well, we don't have dogs sicked on us or being hosed down, but frankly, we might as well be, given the indignity to which we are subjected in this city. We are going to make this happen, and frankly, we will continue to make this happen because it is time for it to change. You all know where this memorial is. You all know where Dr. King's memorial is. You all know where the mall is. You all know where the Lincoln Memorial is. Nobody is confused about that. And you all also know where disenfranchisement and injustice exist. And it is among the 632,000 people who live in this city. So join with us and get the word out. Those who want to be here will be here. And those who need an excuse will find one. Let me take somebody who hasn't had a chance. Yes.
Mayor, just a question about safety and security. Anything you're telling folks not to bring? What can they expect when they do come down once we figure out the logistics?
I don't know if there are any particular safety issues that we're concerned about. Are there, Steve? I mean, just in the normal course of things, do what makes sense in terms of what you bring down here. You know, if it's a hot day, we would suggest people not bring an overcoat. We don't think you'll need it. There are folks who may want to bring an umbrella or something outside, but we would ask people to take the normal precautions that one would take on an August day. It was August 28th, 1963, which was a hot day when this occurred before. You know, we could reasonably expect essentially the same weather conditions. And again, it may be hot. It may be sunny. We may be sweating. But you know what? To me, those are all sacrifices that we ought to be willing to make in order to be able to bring freedom to the people of this city.
On that subject, I've been asking around. There are some very old or much older people who were going to be here. Is the fire and EMS department prepared to do whatever is necessary for emergency? There are going to be a lot of older people who have to walk, people who are infirm. It's much like the World War II memorial where people are coming. What plans are there for the fact that there will be significantly older people and infirm people who are trying to come to this historic event, both here and the main march?
Yeah, two things.
Maybe Chief Quander could speak to it.
Yeah. Chief Quander. Not funny, okay? I'll ask Paul if he wants to come up and speak to that. But again, I know we're providing transportation for some people. We've arranged that. I think there will be some seating that will be down here for people who may be challenged in terms of having to, stand in what really will be essentially a 45-minute program. So this program won't be long at all. The other program may be longer, but then people can come and they go just like they did, 50 years ago. So, Paul, would you like to speak to the issues around FMES?
Good morning. The Fire and Emergency Medical Services Special Events Section had a plan for appropriate response, including first aid stations, safety tents, positioning apparatus strategically so that we can respond to any need. So a plan is in place. It has been submitted to the National Park Service. We are prepared. We are ready. And we will provide whatever emergency medical services we are called upon on the 24th and the 28th if needed.
All right. I'm absolutely certain that the entire media will be here. Imagine if this could be pulled off in 1963, when communication systems were nowhere near as sophisticated as they are now. Imagine what we can do on the 24th. 250,000 people showed up here on the 28th of August, 1963, 50 years ago. You can't tell me that we don't have the sophistication, the intellect, and the resolve to be able to make this happen to an even greater extent in 2013. All right. Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to everybody. We'll look forward to everybody being here, of course, on Saturday. For this, the pre-rally will be at 8 o'clock. This one will be at 9, and then there will be a walk over to the Lincoln Memorial. Everybody know where the Lincoln Memorial is? The Lincoln Memorial, I think it's that way, isn't it? Is it that way? Yeah. And by the way, we have for those of you who don't know, we have a memorial to Dr. King also that is over there. Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr., who participated in the 1963 march. All right, Matt.
What do you say to some of the folks that, and I got a couple of tweets today, and I got to tell you, I'm going to be cleaning schools on Saturday morning, and I would be here if I wasn't cleaning schools. I think they're equally important. Was there some kind of communication problem on Saturday, the march, and then the beautification of schools?
Well, the beautification day was set ages ago, and we decided not to change that. I've met with the chancellor. I've talked to the chancellor. I will be meeting with her and other education leaders again today. When I talked to the chancellor last week, we already had, I think, around 4,000 volunteers who had signed up to participate. So we decided that it wouldn't make sense to change that. And frankly, there are people who could leave our march and go to one of the schools afterwards if they would choose to. So I think it's possible to do both. But we just thought it was prudent, Matt, not to change the beautification day,
That's a good idea.
Especially with the schools, being on a roll like they are now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a general question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two quick questions, if I could. One, the Taxicab Commission has put out new regulations, and once again, some of the more digitally oriented services are upset, saying the Commission is not respecting your attempts to have environmentally correct, better technology cab services and car services. They're tweeting, I don't know if it's true or not, that even the Prius would not qualify as a car. And I'm just wondering if as much as Ron Linton is trying to bring the cab service in the 21st century, do you think maybe you should start over on what these rules should be?
No, I don't think so. Alan, you want to come up and help address this? No. In fact, we have made an enormous amount of progress, in my opinion. We now have credit cards, and I don't know, around 2,000 of the cabs now have credit cards. Some people were given extensions until the end of September to have that technology in place. So I don't think so. I think we're going to continue to have debates with people about the best way to do this, but I think that's healthy, Tom. And we'll make changes too. We've been working with, organizations like Uber, for example. There was a meeting with them just the other day, and there were some agreements that were reached with them around how to accommodate what is really a relatively new service in the city. I think what we're seeing also is the continued evolution, the rapid evolution of, cars for hire, for want of a better way of putting it. And some of the ways in which they are evolving are so new that we're having to develop regulations as we go. So, no, I don't think we should start over. I think, yeah, absolutely. I'm in favor of whatever serves the customers of the District of Columbia best. One of the things that will happen, I'm certain, is that we'll continue to help and encourage our taxi cabs to be able to be as contemporary as they possibly can. They approved the regulations on the color schemes, I think, just the other day as well, which will be red with the sun is nice. I mean, it's very. The color scheme was approved. We had colors on display over at the Verizon Center, and some people liked them, so a lot of people did not like them. But it got the conversation going, and we've arrived at a color scheme now that will be somewhat compatible with the other public conveyances here in the city. And we will have a red with gray stripes down the side on the taxi cabs. Those changes will be made in the normal course of things. As cabs go out of service, they are no longer, in good repair and are replaced. They will be replaced with cabs that have the new color scheme, or for whatever reason, there may be. The companies will still have their own name, on the side, but they will have a consistent color scheme. But again, to go back to your point, we are very much in favor of the new approaches. We're very much in favor of the new technology because we think it will facilitate people being able to get from, point A to point B. We have a new startup in the city. For those of you who've been down to 1776, they have a startup they're working with down there that actually now has a place, I think it's at 9th and U Street. U Street's northwest, called Halo, Hail-O. And it is a new app that allows people to be able to access taxi cabs in the District of Columbia in ways that they couldn't heretofore. I think it's going to be one of the things that really advances our, car for hire process here in the District of Columbia, and that is having a variety of different ways to be able to do that, which I think will be a great antidote for complacency. Alan?
I was just going to say ditto. Yeah, we're looking to support all the various alternatives and that's being considered. And I know that we've approved just recently the sedans and the larger sedans and the SUVs, and we're looking at the other vehicles as well. I've asked that they actually look at other communities, like New York, and see what what falls into those categories, similar to what's being requested of us. So I think we're going to be looking to, ensure that the consumers are given the most choices.
Let's get somebody who hasn't. You, sir, and then identify yourself so everybody will know, and then we'll get the gentleman behind you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, Nick Ionelli with WTOP Radio. I have a question about what supporters call the living wage bill. It's been over a month since the D.C. Council passed it. What is the current status of that legislation?
I really think you ought to pose that question to the chairman of the council. I can tell you this, that I have not received it, despite my best efforts to say, look, why don't you send us the bill? I promise you it will come back in one of two conditions. It will either come back signed or it will come back vetoed. And if you tell me what day you want it back, I promise you I will send it back to you that day. It is now, I think this is day 42.
Have you given any consideration to a veto?
Well, you give consideration to lots of things. And, you know, one of the things that I've done is just meet with lots of people. We were actually going to have another meeting with some folks today, and they changed the meeting for whatever reason. It was not our doing. But anybody who has wanted to weigh in has had a chance to do that electronically. I don't know how many meetings we've had, Chris, dozens, right? One kind or another. We've had meetings where people have come and have had a position there, and then we've even had one or two groups that came in where the group themselves were not fully together. They had varying points of view. So we've heard from a lot of people have weighed in, and I really think it would be good if we could get the bill and move on with this, but that's not within my control. Ben.
Ben Knuckles, AP. Mr. Mayor, have you come any closer to a decision on whether to run for re-election?
Nope.
Is there any reason for you not to run?
I don't know. It depends. You know, at the end of the day, it depends on whether this is something I really want to do, you know, for 4 more years. Don't you think we've had an incredible record for 2 years and 8 months, Ben? No, I was asking you about it. What do you think about our? Of course, you do opinions every day. Those columns have opinions in them. What, did you turn your mic off? Turn your mic on. Don't get nervous.
You talk about your incredible record, and yet you seem hesitant to jump in. I think most people would assume the incumbent would be running, and yet there's a lot of uncertainty about your plans.
Don't you think this administration has had an absolutely sterling record of performance? All right, we'll come back to Ms. Brazil, and then we'll come back to you. Well, Mr. Sherwood, you've been around twice already. We'll come back to you last, okay? Ms. Brazil.
Today you announced the appointment of Robert Summers to be the director of the district's Department of Small and Local Business Development. I had 2 questions. One, did you do any sort of search as a position? And number 2, in the press release, it notes that Mr. Summers has experience in sales and marketing. Weren't you concerned that given the current crisis in the CBE program that maybe management experience might be more important?
Well, yes, there were several people that were interviewed for the position. I'll ask Deputy Mayor Hoskins to speak to that. We won't speak to the specifics of it because that's a personnel issue. But yes, and I think at the end of the day, I think we all concluded that Rob Summers was the best candidate for the position. I don't know if I would phrase it as a crisis. I think we have worked hard. We had a task force that was put together that has helped us to recast the legislation. It has been transmitted to the council. And I hope the council, when it comes back in September, will take it up as one of its first pieces of business so that we can make the changes that we think need to be made, or at least have the discussion about the changes. You will recall that this is not the first time I've submitted legislation to the council on this issue. We did that many months ago. There were some changes made to the legislation that we didn't think would move the program forward. That was a bill that I vetoed, and we went back, we've recast the bill, we've made changes, we worked with a task force to do that, as you well know, and I hope the council will take it up. But no, we believe, Victor, you can certainly add to this, but we believe that Rob is suited to run this department at this point. Yes.
Mayor, do you know when we can see those new ambulances? How many? And do you still believe in your fire chief?
I'll ask Deputy Mayor to speak to that. But yeah, we were talking about one of them last night, right? Yeah. There's at least one here. There's another one that will be here. I think the early part of next week, and they will be arriving. What do we? I think there's 30 that we are bringing on board, as well as additional paramedics. So, you know, we have no problem with you seeing them. As a matter of fact, you will do a great story on it, won't you?
I probably. What about the chief, Mayor?
Let me address the first part of your question. As the mayor indicated, we have started to receive new state-of-the-art custom-built ambulances. I was at the apparatus division last night and saw the first one. So we have a schedule. There will be a press event beginning of next week, probably on Tuesday, where we'll be able to roll out the various levels of things that we have done so that now you and our residents and visitors can see exactly where this department has turned the page and we're moving forward. So we'll be glad to share that with you. As far as the chief is concerned, the chief is doing a good job. There are many obstacles that are in front of him. You have incidents that in any other time would not matter whatsoever, but in the environment that we're in today, get raised to a certain level. When they get raised to a certain level, I have to take steps to properly investigate, and that's what we will do. But at the same time, I need to caution people that every time I do that, every time I have to take valuable resources to take a look at something that wouldn't even scratch the surface of daylight in any other occasion, I'm taking away from something. So we're going to take a look at everything. We're going to find out what the facts are, but it is a drain on resources, and we have to be responsible.
Yes, and then did all three of you have your hands up?
Yeah, I think so. Will Summer with City Paper.
Yeah, I know you will.
Okay.
What about the gentleman in front of you? Oh. No, you go ahead.
Okay.
You go ahead.
This is
I just
also
want to make sure I got the order correct. Okay.
This is also fire department related.
Sure was last.
So last week there were suggestions that potentially ambulances have been sabotaged. This week a fire department member has filed police charges against the chief. I would love to know if you think how the chief is handling the labor situation, and if I could hear from the mayor specifically. I know normally you like to refer to Deputy Mayor Quander, but I'd love your take on it.
The reason why I refer to Deputy Mayor Quander is because this is something that he deals with every day. We're trying to get you, the most precise answer that we possibly can. I certainly think I agree with Deputy Mayor Quander that there are things that have occurred that really are rather suspect to me. One of those is the most recent incident. And I'll let him speak to that because he's closer to it than I am.
Do you mean the ambulance fires?
What was that?
Are you referring to the ambulance fires?
No. With the ambulance fires, as I've indicated, I want to know what the facts are. It's plain and simple. No one wants to deal with speculation. No one wants to deal with innuendo. Our residents and our visitors and business owners want to know what the facts are, and that's what I've asked to be done. And as journalists, you often deal in facts, and that's what we want to provide you. All right?
I was going to say...
Okay. No, we're going to go there first. You've had 2 shots already. Oh, okay.
And Mayor, Aaron Davis with the Post. Just to follow up and close the loop on this, I think we were wondering if you were referring to the ambulance fires as being suspect or the police report being filed by the firefighter.
No, I was referring to a number of the, not anything specific, frankly. There have been some things about which we have raised questions. And frankly, that's the job for you all to do, too. That's what you do as the media. You should raise questions about the validity of things. If there's something that's valid, then of course we are obligated, from a moral, legal, and ethical perspective to address those things. But if there's something that is suspect, I would expect you all to raise questions about it. So the answer is, to your question, it's not just one incident.
And the police report as well falls into the vein of the distraction. Is that?
The what?
The police report being filed by the firefighter regarding the issue of the use of his cell phone camera, does that fall into the vein of the distraction that Deputy Mayor was speaking about as well?
It's only a distraction if you allow it to be, and we're not allowing anything to be a distraction. As I indicated, this agency is turning the page and turning the corner. Our response time is significantly better since March. We're using data and to move this agency forward. The time that it takes for ambulances to get out and to start their runs have improved. The time that it takes for ambulances and emergency personnel to get to the location has improved. The mayor has indicated that we have put into place a system whereby we will be receiving custom-built ambulances. The mayor also mentioned, and we'll give more details on Tuesday, that we have new personnel that are already at the training academy and more coming in. So this is an agency that is on the move. We're in the right direction, and we're going to continue on course. There are no distractions.
Last question. Okay, Tom, you get the last word. You got the first word, too.
But only because you called on me. Across the river, Governor McDonald has had a lot of problems with ethics issues. I won't get into details, but I know you know what I'm talking about. Your son Carlos now is branching out in his own world. He's in the part of a business the Post wrote about. There's no suggestion he's done anything wrong. But given what's happened with Governor McDonald, have you given any guidance to your family members, your son and daughter, about to be extra careful so that everything they do is above board? If so, what have you told Carlos about his project over by the baseball stadium? I know your daughter's a lawyer, separate. But are you concerned at all about family members getting into the kind of trouble that McDonald has in Virginia?
Well, that's how Johnny's and Carlos Gray were raised. So anything that I would tell them at this stage will emanate from the upbringing that they had. My wife, who I don't know whether any of you know, my wife was a fantastic person. She was a teacher in a classroom in the D.C. public schools, and she was a teacher in the home. I have not talked to Carlos extensively about this. He understands the importance of how he comports himself, and I'm glad you put the caveat in there. I know of absolutely nothing that he has done inappropriately. These are things that he's interested in. And young people, no matter who their parents may be, should have those opportunities. I know you have a son who's an entrepreneur too, Tom, and I know that you've done whatever you could to guide him as appropriately a dad should do. I will continue to support my son. I will continue to support my daughter. They understand, the importance of doing things in the appropriate way. I don't have any doubt that they will. I didn't even know that article was coming. I think he had talked to Mike DeBonis maybe last week. He didn't even tell me he had talked to him because it was something he wanted to handle himself. He did, and he provided the facts, whatever they were in that situation. But I think if you go back and look at my son, what he's interested in and what he's done, this is consistent with that. I go places and people will ask me, my son is all over the place, as you probably know. I go places and people say, "Are you Carlos Gray's father?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." But that's just how he is. My daughter is a little more introspective. I won't say introverted. She's not. But they both are really fine people of whom I am very, very proud. And I have no doubt that both of them will continue to do things the way they should be done. All right. Thank you all very much.